Music driven noise, yeah, the mess we make. Machine pulling Kelly, get caught in the fake. Facts and logic with a twist of chest. Strip it down to truth, yeah, forget the rest. Humor pulls the lies right out of the park. Look beyond the shadows that set the dark. Sparks of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity where they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steampunk Kelly with a set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hello, and if you are on X and watching me there, I just posted a link that if you could come over to the YouTube timeline or the YouTube channel and watch from there instead, that's great. I just get more. I just want to get some credit for the viewing hours, but if you can't, that's fine too. More would just like to. Glad to have you here to joining me either way. And today I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories. And in case you're wondering, by the way, Nehan, my co-host, is got some personal stuff to take care of today, so she's not here. But today, unlike yesterday, I'm prepared for that. So hopefully I won't just babble endlessly like a buffoon. Anyway, I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories today. And kind of was percolating on this since the AFC Championship game, and wanted to talk about, like, to lead this off, talking about Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, and this notion that the league is rigging things for the Chiefs, because I think it's kind of apolitical to a degree. Like some people want to make it about politics because of Brittany Holmes and Patrick Mahomes' wife and the kicker. But both of those controversies started long after the Kansas City Chiefs were successful. So we'll just ignore that. So all right, here's what I wanted to consider though. After the Chiefs won, and there were a couple of questionable plays, or I would say 50-50 calls. There were calls that could have gone either way, that went the Chiefs' way, and the Chiefs ended up winning the game. So there are some people that would like to say that they only won the game because they got those calls. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but the first call was there was a call that was up in the air, like the receiver and the defender came down with it at the same time. The looked like maybe the Bills guy initially had the ball, but the Chiefs guy came away with the ball. And these calls all that happen all the time, and usually it's the person that comes away with it that gets the call, and they gave the call to the Chiefs. But if it had gone the other way, there was a penalty on the play, and the Chiefs would have had it first and 10 from the 20 instead of first and 10 from the 5. So it's not like it would have been impossible for them to score. And in fact, there's an argument you can make because they had it first and 10 from the 5, and they scored shortly after that, and it left like a minute and a half on the clock. And the Bills were able to go down and get their own touchdown after that. If it had been first and 10 from the 20, there's a feasible argument that it would have taken the Chiefs longer. The Bills wouldn't have gotten the ball back, and they wouldn't have been able to score on an ensuing possession. So you could argue that the call actually benefited the Bills. The other play was the Bills actually, I think they had the lead, and there was a 4th and short. And Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback, tried a quarterback sneak. He didn't quite, at least according to the officials, didn't get the line to gain. And so the ball was turned over on downs to the Chiefs. And uh this ended up with because the ball went over to the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs went around came and they had a scoring drive after that and ended up winning the game. And it was really close whether Allen made it or not, and they had an official review, and the Chiefs won the review, but the officials or the commentators said they felt like Allen made it, and they have the retired official on there to review these calls, and he said that he felt Allen made it by about a third of the football, and which a football is 11 inches, so we're talking about 3 inches that in a group in a mass of people. And the thing that people don't remember don't consider is that the announcers are looking at it with the TV image of the line to gain, which is unofficial, but also which isn't there for the officials on the field or for the review officials, because it's not an official line, and so it's not like you can like really follow it from there. So like something like 3 inches is really hard to see. And that's why they have chains, because sometimes it is literally a game of inches, and so they have to bring out the chains to see if somebody made the first down or not. So anyway, the conspiracy theorist is that the conspiracy around the Chiefs is that they consistently get these close calls. And if it were just one, then people would write it off, but they're always getting the close calls. And so since they're always getting the close calls, the NFL is rigging the game so that the Chiefs will win. And so then they want the Chiefs to win because Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce, the Kansas City Chiefs tight end. And so when she goes to the game, all the Swifties watch the game, so they might get a sight of Taylor Swift. And so then that boosts ratings. So that means there's more TV ratings for the NFL, for the more money. And so everybody in the NFL wants the Chiefs to win. All right. And so now the NFL has rigged things for the Chiefs to win. And the refs are in on this, I guess, or something like that. And so that's the conspiracy. And I feel like this is non-political enough that my political audience will be able to separate their own personal fandom from the analysis. And hopefully I'm right, but if you're a Bills fan, I feel for you. I can feel your loss. Watching Bruce Almighty, and all I can say is that's the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway, if you get it, you get it. If you don't worry. The the theory is that the NFL has rigged the league for the Kansas City Chiefs. There are some problems with this. First of all, there are out of 32 teams, the Kansas City Chiefs have the 27th largest market, and they don't even have like there's other cities that don't even have markets that are larger markets than the Chiefs. And there is one team that you could technically say has a larger market than has a smaller market than the Chiefs, but they have two smaller markets than the Chiefs. That's the Green Bay Packers. But when you put Green Bay and Milwaukee together, which is the two places where the Packers play, and they actually have a larger market. And obviously you've got like the entire state of Wisconsin. So you have that, right? Like you have like you know, why if the NFL were going to rig the league for a team, why not like the Los Angeles Rams, who have a good enough team and represent, you know, like a massive market, or the Chargers, who are in the playoffs, who also, you know, play in Los Angeles, or well, you know, if you combine the two Jets teams, you still wouldn't, or the two New York teams, you still wouldn't have a playoff team. So neither one of those. But why not the state of New York? Even though Buffalo has a smaller market, if you could get the state of New York behind them, then that whole television market would be bigger than the Kansas City market and the whole state of Missouri. So why not the Buffalo Bills? Why rig it for the Bills? You have the AFC starting quarterback in the Pro Bowl on that team. Why not that team? It's and then the answer is because Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce. But she only started dating Travis Kelce last year, and the Chiefs have been winning for this is their 5th Super Bowl in 6 years and their 7th straight AFC championship game. So it's not like you can tie the Chiefs winning the to the timeline there. So then you go, okay, you know, and then the next question is, why would the NFL rig it at all? Because who is the NFL? And the NFL is 32 distinct teams, and it's an association. It's not a corporation, you know, with a CEO. And each of those teams has their own interest in winning the Super Bowl. So I don't think Jerry Jones is going to get behind the idea of the Kansas City Chiefs having the Super Bowl rigged for them because Taylor Swift, when the Dallas Cowboys are actually the most viewed team in the NFL, not the Kansas City Chiefs. So if, you know, I mean, like all things considered, if you just wanted the highest possible rated Super Bowl, you would have the Dallas Cowboys in it, and they didn't even make the playoffs. So that's really stupid rigging. So the point is, though, that the NFL is these 32 different teams, and you'd have to have owners voting against their own interest in order to rig this, including the owner of the Buffalo Bills. And then you could say, well, maybe it's, you know, they had a vote and some of these owners voted against it, but they lost. And it's like, well, but why would they stay silent about it? Why is there year after year these votes over who's going to win and nobody ever knows about it? Wouldn't it at some point it become apparent? And there's like this dude has done mathematical equations on conspiracy theories. And when you look at the number of people involved and the number of time involved, you're talking about two factors that eventually a conspiracy theory will be exposed. So when you're talking about 50 years of Super Bowl history and all the different owners and managements and players and stuff like that, you're talking about a massive number of people that would have to be involved in a conspiracy over who's going to win the Super Bowl for it to remain under hat all this long. And so then, you know, some people would say, well, Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, he's doing it. Well, okay, if he's doing it, how is he acting on his own? What is the means by which he's doing that? And, you know, how is he communicating this to the referees? How does he know which referee in preseason? How does he know which referee is going to be in the AFC Championship game when he doesn't even know who the teams are going to be in the AFC Championship game? How does he arrange all this? You know, like, does he have every single official in the NFL involved in this? And does that happen every single year? Is he rigging every game to see who gets to the playoffs or who gets the number one seed and so on? Like, you see what I'm saying? There has to be, like, to just say the NFL has it rigged is easy to say, but when you start thinking about how that rigging happens, it becomes like just impossible to like really. And so then, you know, like they keep going smaller. Well, okay, it's not the NFL, it's Roger Goodell. You know, and then it's like, okay, he's just in those officials' ears. Like, he's in the game and he's like telling them to tilt this one call for the Chiefs. And like, are they wearing a special earpiece? Does he have like a Roger Goodell signal that he shines in the sky that only officials can see? How does he communicate these things to the refs? that this is what he wants to happen. And this is like, I don't think that there's a conspiracy theory. I'm not like a fan of the Chiefs. I am a fan of NFL players, including both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I wrote about the NBA for over a decade, and over the course of that time, the thing that I really learned is just to appreciate greatness while it's there, whether it's LeBron James or Kevin Durant or Stephen Curry. You're watching players that are some of the best of their generation and the best in history, and you can sit there and get all caught up in who is better, and then all those conversations end up being is trying to diminish the other guy, or you can just appreciate the greatness of like individual talents. And that's where I'm at as a fan of football. I don't have a favorite team. I don't have a favorite player. There are players I enjoy watching, and whether that's Saquon Barkley jumping over people backwards, or Patrick Mahomes inventing things, or Josh Allen throwing the football 70 yards on target, or Jaden Daniels for that matter, and just his presence as a rookie, like he's been around for 20 years. They're all amazing players. I love watching them all. I'm a fan of the game more than any player, and so maybe that's where if I have a bias, it's to defend the game itself more than anything. But it's not like I'm not pro Mahomes or anti Mahomes. But I'm also like, one thing I really don't like is conspiracy theories versus actual conspiracies. And I wanted to use this whole scenario to set up this conversation about conspiracies and versus conspiracy theories. Because conspiracies do exist. There is really a thing called a criminal conspiracy. And this is the reason I just decided to do this morning. I did not write an outline. This is all off the top of my head. But because of the airline accident last night, which is horrific, and my heart goes out to the people involved. But you already have people, including the president of the United States, trying to like see some sort of conspiracy in this. And there was if you don't watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, a couple of years ago during the pandemic, he did an episode on conspiracies. And he pointed out that the reason we have conspiracies is that sometimes really terrible shit happens. And we want there to be order in it. Like, it is easier for us to believe that this really terrible thing happened because somebody made it happen, rather than it just happened. Because if somebody made it happen, you can get angry, and you can, like, feel like you're doing something about it by reacting to it, right? You're exposing the experience. You're exposing the conspiracy. Versus, I don't know what happened, and I'm not trying to conjecture anything at all. But I don't believe anybody willfully caused it to happen. Like, there's some reports about the FAA director was, there was no acting FAA director, and there that this could have been a ripple effect of that, which I don't say is impossible, but I'm not sure how, like, it would seem like, like within a week that there would be this kind of impact. But then, there was the whole thing with the freeze and people not knowing, is it possible that there was, so, like an air traffic controller wasn't, like they were short there, they were understaffed, they were overworked, they were overstressed. Somebody missed something that if it hadn't been for that maybe would have been caught. All of that, I think, is perfectly reasonable and possible, but that's more of a issue of incompetence. And I don't mean the incompetence of the air traffic controllers. I mean the incompetence of the Trump administration and just, doing the crap that they were doing. But, like, what is there? There's a saying, something like never never attribute to malice what can be, signed to ignorance or something like that. Like I don't remember the saying exactly, but I think it's that kind of thing. I don't think that anybody, even in the Trump administration, just decided they were going to bring down this entire airline, this passenger airline, due to some sort of nefarious reason. But I think it's entirely possible that it is a ripple effect of the Trump administration's incompetent decisions to just start uh, paralyzing the federal government. And I think it should also be a warning that if we keep doing that, that there's going to be consequences. Like, people have jobs because those jobs need to be done, and when there aren't people doing those jobs, that has consequences. So I'm not, uh, I'm not trying to be dismissive of things, but like, I don't see there's a conspiracy involved here. Where there was a conspiracy is on January 6th. And we know there was a conspiracy because there are pictures of people in the room conspiring. And there's like emails that we have of the actual conspiracy. Like, sometimes we talk about conspiracy theories as though they are automatically wrong. Like, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. Well, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's an actual conspiracy. So there are conspiracies. Sometimes people do have criminal conspiracies. That's why there's laws against it. Anything where there's more than two people involved in planning and a crime, that's a conspiracy. Conspiracies happen all the time. A bank robbery is a conspiracy. Like, if it's got more than one person involved. So yes, there are conspiracies, and January 6th was a conspiracy, and it was part of a larger conspiracy to overthrow the government. And if you don't see that, then you don't know what the facts are. But it doesn't mean that last night was a conspiracy, or that the Kansas City Chiefs are, being rigged to win the Super Bowl. So and then, like, you get the vaccines, that's a conspiracy. What are the facts? And like, there's this sort of pseudoscience about how vaccines cause autism, and now you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., aka the brain killer, or the brainworm killer. Like, if you have a brainworm starved to death in your brain, then you have no business being, the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And RFK Jr., he is not there in spite of his conspiracy theories. He is there because of them. He is a promulgator of conspiracy theories. And that is his only qualification for the job to which he is being appointed. And there will be 50 senators that will tongue Trump's bunghole and get him in there, and we will have somebody that actively works against American health and makes millions and millions of dollars off of it become the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He stands to make money off of pushing anti-vax conspiracy theories. And so, like, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's just a fact. And is there a conspiracy to push him through? Yes, there is. But when you're talking about conspiracies versus conspiracy theories, to sort of weave all this back together, because, hey, Donald Trump's not the only one who can do a weave. So there's something. These are the questions you need to consider. All right. The number one question is, who's doing the conspiring, right? A lot of conspiracy theories, they're vague. The NFL, the government, the Democrats. No, okay. The Republicans. Like, who specifically? I want names. If you don't have names, you have a conspiracy theory. If you have names, you have a conspiracy. Like, that's the very first question. Anytime anybody ever there's this like, say somebody says that there's a cover up to uh, for uh, vaccines cause autism, and there's a big cover up. Okay, who's covering it up? Who's promoting it? Like, who is promoting the vaccines? And I don't want to hear big pharma, because that's not a big pharma is not a person. I want to know the people involved, like, or very specific uh, groups of people. Like, big pharma is just, who the fuck is that? How, like, you need to have actual people involved. A conspiracy theory is not something that should be disproven. A conspiracy is something that should be proven, and you can't prove a conspiracy unless you can establish who the conspirators are. So that's the number one question: is who is doing the conspiring? Like, who? Number two is, why are they conspiring? Okay, so let's go back to the NFL thing, right? And I'll ask people, why would they do that? Why would the NFL do that? And they'll come up with, like, money will be the answer, and that's the easy go-to for any conspiracy theory. Oh, it's just about the money. Okay, how does the NFL make more money if the Kansas City Chiefs win? And then that will come down, they'll say ratings. Okay, how does ratings matter if the Kansas City Chiefs win? And this is something, like, again, you need to actually follow through on this logic. How do the Kansas City, would the NFL, or I'm sorry, let me put it differently. Does who won the AFC Championship game make a difference in how much money the NFL makes in the Super Bowl? And so how does the NFL make money in the Super Bowl? Well, they don't. The NFL has already been paid for the Super Bowl by the network that's covering it. So the NFL, I'm just going to look this up. So who's covering the Super Bowl this year? I don't even know that. Okay, so it's on Fox. And how much did Fox pay for the Super Bowl? They paid millions of dollars. So it doesn't say how much they paid. But because it's not really, how much did Fox pay for their NFL, their current? They paid $1.6 billion over 4 years. That's the entirety of everything that they're, over all the games that they broadcast, including the Super Bowl. Okay. And they've already paid that money to the NFL. So the NFL makes no more money if the Chiefs are in it, if the Bills are in it. They've already gotten their money. It makes no difference to the NFL. So, like, ratings doesn't change how much the NFL gets, nor does it matter how much money Fox gets for broadcasting it, because most of those Super Bowl ads are already sold, and the prices is already set. They've already made over 80, I think, what was it saying? They're $8 million a piece for the ads. That's not going to change based on because the Kansas City Chiefs they didn't bump the price from 8 million to 10 million because the Chiefs are in it. Nor does it mean that the ratings are going to be any better. Like, there was an initial boost with the whole relationship with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift in regular season NFL games. The Super Bowl is one of the most widely watched sporting events, or events of any sort, every single year. And It's not like they need Taylor Swift sitting in the audience to get people to watch it. So it's not like ratings are affected by it. It's not like money is affected by it. There's no reason to do this. And then the next thing you want to look at is when they talk about these conspiracies and the people that are involved, then you have to look at the risk reward. Okay, so if there's almost no reward for it, what is the risk involved? Well, the risk is involved is this behemoth of a business that's getting paid. Like, how much does the NFL make? They make about $20 billion a year. So why would the NFL risk this $20 billion a year industry and the credibility of it by rigging the league for something that's not going to make them any more money and is just going to make the 27th largest market in the Super Bowl? It doesn't make sense. There's no logical reason for the NFL to do this rigging. So that's the second, like the first thing you want to look at, who are the conspirators? And then secondly, what are their motivations? Why would they be doing it? Like, why would pharmacy, like big pharma, whoever that is, be doing this conspiring? And, you know, there are cases where there were conspiracies with big pharma, but those became unraveled, right? Like with the opioid epidemic, for instance. We know who the players are, and we know they made billions and billions of dollars doing it. And we also know that sadly, there wasn't much risk involved for them because they just had to pay some. They're still worth more money than they were before they did the crime, and they didn't have to do any time. So, you know, like that's the second thing is like look at the risk and the reward and what are the motivations. And then, you know, the third thing is like whether or not they're able to get away with, like, actual conspiracies. Usually they don't get away with it because there's people involved. You know, like with the opioid epidemic, there were people that were being, you know, told to push these opioids and seeing the benefit, the results of that had consciences that said, you know, I can't do that anymore. And so then they ended up getting whistleblowers, and the whistleblowers ended up bringing the thing down. The larger the conspiracy, the more people get involved. The more people get involved, the higher the chances that you're going to have your whole conspiracy blow apart. So, you know, there's like with the Chiefs again, and I'm just keep coming back to that because it's not a political thing. And since it's not a political thing, I think it's easier for people to, you know, like, I mean, you might be a pissed off Chiefs Bills fan, you know, and I totally understand that. One of my best follows on Twitter is a Bills fan. The and I feel for you, buddy. If you ever watch this, I totally feel for you. I was feeling for you during, like, on that play. But anyway, the conspiracy theory, and in order for it to be a conspiracy, it actually has to get executed, and getting executed, it risks being exposed. And the more people that get involved, the more risk there is to being exposed. And there's actually, like, there's I'll see if I can find it. I'll post it on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on YouTube here. But there's a guy that actually has done the literal math and you know, like, figured out, like, if the moon landing were actually were a conspiracy theory, it would have taken like so many years, like 3 years, based on the people that were involved. The number of people involved, it would have taken this long. And some, you know, like, and then you get things like the, you know, people, the 9/11 tower, or, you know, the Pentagon plane, you know, like, just where it's not just the people that are involved in it, but there's people that, like, actually watch the, you know, the planes hit the towers and stuff like that. And there's a point where you have to start just having some credulity about some of these things. One of them that I think to criticize my side a little bit. There's people that will say that the the Trump assassinations didn't really happen, the assassination attempts. And then you're starting, so like, let's use some of that same logic. One, who would do it, and what would be their motive? And you could say, well, the Trump campaign could be motivated by this because they would be able to manipulate it to kind of engineer this whole hero thing that Trump was. And then they can so it's all to get Trump to win. That would be the explanation. And that's not unreasonable. Like those are good motivations, and there's like little chance that they would get caught. But where it falls apart is in the execution phase, because now you're talking about the person, that there was actually a person that was on, especially with the first one, that he was, like, killed. And so where is the like, why would he like just voluntarily give away his life for this? And then you're also talking about, well, like, maybe he was depressed or whatever, and he was going to kill himself anyway, and he thought this, you might be able to come up with some weird scenario to where, like, you can explain that away. But this to me is where the whole thing, this particular thing, falls apart, is you have Secret Service agents involved. And yes, there are some Secret Service agents that are Trump supporters, but they're not murderers. And to get a Secret Service clearance is not that easy. Like, you have to have this incredible, like, no criminal history, and like, no, if you smoked pot in high school, like, you're not going to get in. Like, you have to be like really above reproach. And they do this. And like, I had just a regular secret security clearance when I was in the Air Force, and they looked at all of that kind of stuff. I didn't have a top secret clearance. I just had a regular secret clearance. If you get like a higher security clearance, then it gets more and more detailed and more thorough. And if you're on a presidential detail, or for the when Trump was not president, but he was a former president, so these people would not have, like, they're not just getting the typical background check you get for work. This is much more thorough. And so there is a credibility to these people that has already been established. And you're talking about multiple people. You're talking about like like dozens of people, that each of those. And you're not just asking them to cover up a fake assassination attempt. You're asking some of them to actually kill somebody who is on their side. You're asking them to murder. Like, who was the person who willfully murdered somebody so that Donald Trump could be president? Maybe. And then like, this is not just like a hitman they hired. No, this was an actual Secret Service agent that had gone through all the security clearances, and whose career did not start because Donald Trump got elected. He didn't, like, Secret Service agents didn't join the Secret Service so they could protect Donald Trump. So, like, but one of them would have had to shoot the guy, and that guy shot somebody else. So he had to be, the guy that, because the fire guy also got shot. And so he shot this other guy for what reason? And like, there are some people that say that it was all a big setup to for like he had some personal thing with this guy, and this was all just a thing to murder that. I mean, like that makes no sense. Why would you do that at a MAGA rally? Um, to sometimes it's just the Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually correct, which is this guy was just a dude off his rocker that tried to shoot Trump, and you know, a lot of people would be happy if Trump died. You know, I'm not going to lie. I don't think I would shed any crocodile tears myself, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go out and murder him. You know, um, the conspiracy. It's like, okay, it falls apart at the like who did it, because you know, like you can talk about who organized it, but when you start talking about the execution, who executed the guy that was sitting on the trail, who executed the fired guy, like why? And then the other one, um, you know, there's no questions that aren't answered. The guy was sitting there camping out at the golf course, and you know, I don't know how rare that is. I don't think that that one came as close as some people would, as the Trumpers would have you believe. That guy was clearly just off his rocker. But I don't think that these things were staged. I think that they were used, and the media let themselves be manipulated. I think that Trump is forever and always will be a uh, what's the word I'm looking for? A charlatan. And because of that, like he had like I don't know why he didn't have his shoes on in the first place. Maybe he fell out of them because of the lifts or whatever. But he had the presence of, like, I think he knew the guy was already down. I think they probably told him he's, you know, while they're down, I don't think they let him back up if they think that there's still an active shooter going on, right? Like the guy shot, they shot him back, and then they had the radio communications, and they were probably hearing he's down, you know, targets down, targets down, targets down. And so then they picked Trump back up. And I think Trump knew it, and I think they knew it, and I think Trump was never afraid of anything like that. But he had the instincts of a charlatan that kicked in, and so he was like, first, let me put on my shoes, and he gets over to the flag. He's like, this is a great picture, and so he does this whole fight, fight, fight thing. You know, I think all of that was just his instincts kicking in as a charlatan. I mean, I don't think that part is that complicated. And I don't think that there's any conspiracy involved there. I think it's sad that people take, you know, like the deaths of two people and they turn it into a conspiracy. And I'm not just talking about, you know, the left doing that. The right also did that, and trying to suggest that somehow the Democrats tried to have Trump killed, including Trump, turning his own assassination attempt into a conspiracy theory. And now he's turning this airline accident into a conspiracy theory to once again disguised from his own incompetence, which in all likely, like without further until we get more details, it doesn't seem unreasonable to think that it's tied to his trying to gut the FAA. I mean, it's that's a pretty obvious line to draw. And but again, it's assigning signing things to incompetence rather than malice. You know, and so, you know, like even going back to the NFL thing, is it possible that the ref got the call wrong? And you know, there's like I covered the NBA for a good decade, and looked into this kind of stuff with the NBA. And there is, you know, like if you look at 40, 50 years of NBA history, like I did, and you look at the number of fouls called against it or called on behalf of a team when they're home versus away, there is a consistency that teams are more likely to get the whistle when they're at home versus when they're away. There is a there is a statistical evidence. There is statistical evidence that hometown crowds influence NBA referees, and I have no reason to believe that that would not also be the case with the NFL. And it is within the realm of possibility that the Kansas City fans and being in Kansas City affected that call. But again, that's not saying there's malice. That's just normalcy. It's not just, you know, like this one time it happened. Uh, so there's nothing unusual there. And you know, and it's like, is it reasonable to believe that this, you know, referee with, you know, everybody yelling at him could look into this crowd of people and see an 11-inch football, uh, you know, like with no definitive line like we have, and just not think he got it across? Like, isn't it possible that just he made an honest mistake and it was so close that the officials that were reviewing it could look at this and say, we do not have overwhelming evidence, or what is the indisputable evidence that he got it wrong. Like, you know, and without using the yellow line again, because the yellow line is only the TV has that. They don't have that in the live game, and the NFL officials aren't able to review to look at that. Isn't it possible he just got the call wrong, and that there's no mass conspiracy involved? And then and then people are like, well, the Kansas City Chiefs are always getting these calls. But one, that's because they win a lot of games. Like, they get a lot of calls because are in close games they win, because they win a lot of close games. It doesn't mean that, you know, correlation is not causation. And they're winning a lot of close games because they are in almost all the games that they play. And then they also have a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes that is really, really, really good at game management in in-game situations. He is able to maintain a possession and long drives that end up, you know, swinging the game. And so, like, he gets a lot of these third and fourth down conversions through a lot of times just spontaneous decision making and genius playmaking that other people can't do. Or, you know, they don't see what he sees. They don't have the feel for things with their, you know, most reliable player, the way he and Kelsey have this like really incredible chemistry between them that's been developed over all these years of winning together. So, like, it's not unreasonable that Kansas City would have a long list of close calls they got in close games they won, just because there are a lot of close games they won. And if we went through and look at all the calls they didn't get in close games they lost, it wouldn't be as long of a list, because they just don't lose many games. So it's a, you know, like, correlation is not causation. And like that's the other part of these conspiracy theories, is that you can't just look at, like, you'll have people say, well, isn't this possible, isn't this possible, isn't this possible? And it's like they want you to look at the what is possible rather than what is plausible. And it's like, okay, is it plausible that, you know, is it possible that all 32 NFL teams have collectively and unanimously decided that they are going to rig the games for the 27th largest team in the NFL because the world's biggest pop star is dating a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they might show the camera on her during the Super Bowl, and you might have a few Swifties that watch the game because of that, and, you know, will make the next contract bigger or something? I suppose that's possible, but is it plausible? Like, I don't think it's all that plausible. And I don't think it's all that plausible that all these Secret Service agents collectively decided to murder somebody so that they could uh, affect um, the tide of the campaign and establish Trump as the winner. Like, I don't think that's plausible. I think it's plausible that some asshole tried to kill Trump and missed, and then Trump and his campaign used that to manipulate the idiots that voted for him. That's plausible. And possible. You could say both scenarios are possible, but one is not all that plausible, and one is very plausible. So, like Occam's razor is, like when, like whatever is the simplest explanation is usually the most correct, and that's the thing. So again, with the airline crashing, like what is the most plausible explanation? I think you're talking like the helicopter pilot and the airline pilot were probably neither one was on their first flight. We don't know what happened, but is it plausible that there was some reason somewhere that they were not able to, whoever was responsible for communicating with those two, that they were about to hit each other, that there was something that was missing in that equation? Like somebody did not get a message they were supposed to get, either the helicopter pilot or the airline pilot. And it's the most likely thing is they didn't get that message because nobody sent that message. And nobody sent that message because somebody missed giving it. And somebody missed giving it because either they weren't there or they were overworked or they were overstressed or whatever. I don't think it's because they went to DEI training 6 months ago. Or I don't think it's because, they were a DEI hire. Like, whatever the hell a DEI hire is. Like, I think sometimes everyone, including us liberals, need to like take a step back and evaluate conspiracy theories before we jump in on them and weigh in on them. And like just these three questions that are very helpful are, why or who did it? Who are the conspirators? Specifically name them. Who are the conspirators? Like, who is the Secret Service agent that agreed to shoot somebody? And like, if you have proof to me that a Secret Service agent had gone to that meeting or gone to that rally that day, knowing he was going to shoot that person, then you have a conspiracy. But until then, you just have Uncle Drunk's ramblings. The second thing that you have to ask is, so the first is, who are the conspirators? And the second thing is, like, how were they able to carry this out? What, were they able to execute it? What were their motives? Why did they do it? Or I'm sorry, the second thing is, what were their motives in doing it? And the third thing is, how were they able to carry it out? Like, if you don't have the answer to those three questions, then you just have a crack brain theory. If you have the answer to those three questions, you have an actual conspiracy. Like with the January 6th insurrection, we know who was involved. We know why they were doing it. The people who were involved, from Donald Trump to the people that were involved in this Green Bay sweep, to the people that organized the rally, to the people that organized the start of the actual insurrection, who weren't even at the rally, like with the Proud Boys people and all of that, to the we know who they are, and we know why they were doing it, because they were trying to prevent the election from being authorized so that they could then kick it over to Congress and eventually overturn the results of the election. We know all of this. There's no question about it. All of this is objective fact. We have emails. We have, in their discourse, we have confessions. We know this happened. None of this is theory. All of this is just absolute fact. So that is a conspiracy. And you might not have a conviction because the courts are in the Republicans' pockets. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. We still know this was not a conspiracy theory. This was an actual conspiracy. And we know that because we know the answers to the questions of who did it, what was their motivation, and how did they go about doing it? How was it executed? So anyway, I just wanted to, I wasn't planning on doing a show today because Nahum wasn't with me, and it's always better when she joins me. But with the wackadoodles coming out with the airplane crash, I just thought, I've been wanting to talk about this conspiracy nonsense for a while, and between that and the the people that were talking about Patrick Mahomes, I just thought I'd just jump on and talk about this today. So anyway, didn't get any comments today, but thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow when we'll get Nahan back, and hopefully it'll be a little more interesting for you.